Okay, so the TED Talk this week was about healthcare and our healthcare system. And I kind of had mixed feelings about it because I thought that he made some good points, but overall was trying to be kind of entertaining and a little dramatic. And I just didn't feel like he really made a super strong point about anything. But I'll get to that in a second, I guess. One of the points he did make that I thought was really interesting was talking about a talk that he gave in the late 70s, I think in 1977, and then basically giving that same talk in 2014. And that kind of made him realize there hadn't been much change to our healthcare system at all in all of that time. Um, One of the other things I thought was interesting was that he said that people always told him it was impossible to change healthcare. And then one day he saw that Adidas commercial that said the impossible is not a fact, but it's an opinion. So basically, he sees it as it's just people's opinion that we can't change healthcare and that even though it seems like impossible, it can definitely be done. And he sees that there's a need for it. So one of the other things I wrote down that he said was think about the future we want and then create it. So that was kind of why I think he was pretending that it was 2024 and he was pretending that he was already in this future that had a better system and had done things better than we had done them. And then from there, seeing like the end result, you can figure out how to create it rather than, I guess, kind of coming up and going along the way and then seeing what the result is at the end. But some of the things that I thought was interesting that he called from March 2024 was the time that he said it was. And he said something about, I think it was the Eagles were still trying to win their first Super Bowl, which I thought was kind of funny because that happened. But that was one of the only things I think that did happen that he had referenced. So we're really not that much closer to where he said that we could be or should be. The one thing that I noticed was he said that we could use the phone to see the doctor and have teledocs. And like, yeah, we have those. My mom uses it all the time. But I think the evidence based medicine that he said was using predictive analytics to reduce the uncertainty of medicine. And I don't really know a lot about the medical field. I don't know how much they use things like that, but he said something about if you knew someone's DNA, you could create a medicine that you knew would work well for their body. So, as far as that goes, I don't think we're doing that. I feel like I would have heard more about that because that sounds like a pretty huge breakthrough. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Feel free to inform me. I don't know a lot about actual medicine. But one of the other things was about the people that are becoming doctors that he spoke about was making them more empathetic and more communicative and transforming admissions by looking for emotionally intelligent physicians rather than just based on scientific data, which I think in theory is a really good idea. But if we start admitting doctors to programs by seeing how good they are at empathy and talking to people, if they can't pass like organic chemistry, that's maybe not someone I want diagnosing me and figuring out what's wrong with my body, you know? And I mean, I imagine that they're still going to be looking at those really smart, gifted, high GPA candidates, but adding in other factors to the admission process, he just wasn't really clear about that. And he made it seem like he wanted to kind of take away testing and take away grades and admitting doctors and just make it like an interview process sort of thing, which we haven't done. I mean, I know people that are trying to get into med school now, they're definitely taking a lot of tests and their grades are really important. So we're not there, and we're not, as far as I know, using any special drugs that are tailored to each individual. But we've got teledocs, and it's kind of a pretty cool thing because, I mean, even from just like talking to my mom about what going to the doctor was like when she was a kid, her doctor like literally lived next door to her, so they like walked over to his house on the weekends if something went wrong. But if it was after hours or a weekend, then like regular people couldn't just see a doctor. They had to wait a long time. Or they couldn't just Google where a doctor's office was or get the telephone number off of the internet. They had to either know the number or go into the office. So it's definitely a huge deal that we've got that kind of communication with our doctors. And that's really awesome. But I guess I kind of see his point that maybe from 1977 to 2014, there isn't much change, and maybe we're still there. And I think that we kind of had a huge chance for progress with Obamacare recently, and That's something that I'm going to talk about a lot more in my interview assignment with the person that I interviewed, because she gave me a lot of insight on different access to different kind of medications for different people and how that changed with Obamacare and since the Trump administration has come in. And even just in that short amount of time, certain things that were made really accessible, in this case it was HIV medication, has since become more difficult just in like a year and a half. But I guess we're not much closer to his prediction, but I don't know if his prediction was really legislative based or if it was just person to person, because that was kind of how he made it seem, was that it was like one of the things he said was working together versus cannibalizing one another for as far as doctors go. And I think that that's something that's definitely more of like an interaction thing between one doctor to another doctor, not like a government mandate or any sort of bill that's going to be passed. And I don't really think that he talked about a lot of things as far as government involved in healthcare goes. He mentioned Obamacare once a little bit in the beginning, but he was kind of really just talking about things that he did, like that his Jefferson University had done, and they were doing certain things with their admissions process. So it seemed like it was kind of an individual level, and maybe that was the point he was trying to make, was that he doesn't think that the government can help healthcare, and that he thinks that in order to improve our system, everything has to be done on an individual level, which then raises the issue of how do we get every individual to at least be doing similar things, so that maybe Jefferson University isn't super different from like Duke's med school. Because if they're giving super different programs, then we're going to have really different doctors coming out and then really different doctors treating us across the country, and things aren't going to be standardized, which I guess has its pros and its cons, but that's not really the point of this video. Overall, I guess to sum all of that up, I don't think that we're much closer, I guess, to his prediction than we were in 2014, even though it's been 4 more years and we're almost halfway there. But I guess we've still got some time, and lots of things can change in 4 more years. We'll see. Thanks.